I've learned to empower people for what they're doing. Because I was a poor leader for many years, and honestly, some of the people are surrounded. I saw the fault is that you would be task oriented, right? They would task you to dress, and I would did the same thing. I would task you to death. But when I'm tasking you to death, there was some common goal in there, right? Besides just keeping them busy, but they didn't know the goal. So they're just doing a bunch of tasks. And every time they do a task, say they have 2 tasks, they get to the end of the task and say, well, what now? Right. So then they need more of me because I wasn't empowering them to understand, like, listen, our goal is this. And to do this, we're going to have to build a machine that does these parts. And to do that, I'm going to need you to do step 3, 7, and 9 as part of this machine so we can get up to reach that goal. And then they go out there and they can help me improve in the system, right? And they can start taking ownership for what they're doing and then having a result in mind of why they're doing the task. Because many times people that are on your team, employees or others, like they lose sight because they have no sight, right? They don't know what they're doing. So there's no timely fashion on what they're doing to go to get a result because they don't quite understand the mission, right? So maybe they're doing something that if you just showed them what the purpose was, like why we're doing this, they could come up with a way that's 7 times quicker and 3 times better than I could ever thought of because now you've given them ownership for what they're doing.
Hello all, and welcome to another episode of Transform Your Future with me, Eddie Isin, where I sit down with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and high achievers as they identify areas I can improve on and guide me to further my self-improvement practice. For more information and insights, join the newsletter at transformyourfuture.com, where I write about reinvention, personal growth, and identity. We want to hear from you. Please let us know how we can improve your experience. Please reach out to us through our website, your podcast app, or text me directly at 813-722-1417. My guest today is Jason Yarusi, founder of the Live 100 program and the 7-figure Multifamily Mastermind. Jason is a private fund manager of over $300 million in commercial real estate. Since 2017, his company, Yarusi Holdings, has amassed over 3,000 apartment and commercial real estate units. Jason has built and exited multiple companies, construction companies, restaurants, a brewery, and multiple large apartment communities. He's an avid ultra runner and workout enthusiast and the host of the Live 100 and the Multifamily Live podcast. We had a great conversation talking about how he struggled in his early career, overcame many obstacles, and pivoted his way to success. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. Papaya! Welcome, Jason. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to just talk a little bit about your background and your history. I know you've got a lot to say about excellence and leadership and overcoming obstacles and being resilient as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a mover and shaker. So let's jump right in.
Perfect. So, hey, talking a bit about where I've really started out is that, I left college and moved to New York City. I didn't have really any direction, right? So I just wasn't motivated to a purpose. And I ended up getting a finance degree in school, a business degree, really because I had a girlfriend at the time and had to pick a major. And her mom said, well, you're good at numbers. Why don't you do business? And that was my choice of a major, right? So in the direction there is that I had just, I'd left, high school. I'd had some loss, some things that just weren't really motivating me. So I got to college, left college, and just continued to not have drive, right? And not have purpose for what I was doing. So it led me to just work in a bunch of jobs that were not really the highest, best used, right? I was painting at some point, I was doing construction. I was just doing oddball jobs. I worked in bars and worked as a bartender. And I kept doing things that just really weren't driving me anywhere. And one night, just angry at life, right? Just not happy with where I was, right? Of course, was doing things that weren't, of my highest calling. So I was getting bad results and I was blaming everybody else. Well, I was riding home on my bike at like 2, 3 in the morning from a bar job that I just didn't want to be at anymore. And I got hit by a car, right? I got sideswiped by a car somehow. I was lucky enough to just only get a bunch of stitches, break my shoulder, have a pin in my wrist. There's a bunch of things that really messed me up pretty good, but I was alive. 5.
I,
And the
yeah.
next day, all I could think about was that I had to get back to work at this bar job because I had to make rent. And
Mm,
I had this moment of pause being like, you have been doing this thing of chaos for so long. And last night you get hit by a car and all you can think about getting to this job that you don't want to be at anyway. What are you doing? And there was a moment of clarity there where I had to make a choice that either I just go back and just do exactly the same thing and then probably just get the same results, or I
mm-hmm,
start to do
mm-hmm.
something different. Now, it wasn't the next day was magical. I didn't have some, like great awakening. And the next day I was out, doing some tremendous things. But
Yeah.
I said to myself, I have to do something. And I didn't know what that was, but I have to start making some changes. And the next day, the following day, I started to make some small changes, right? So, not drinking as much at night, getting up and earlier, working out, just setting different patterns to my day to just start to
Mm-hmm,
add some positive elements to it. Started surrounding myself with just better literature, just better people, just people with a more forward-thinking mindset.
mm-hmm,
And what
mm-hmm.
that did is it started to position myself from working in those bars. I ended up going in and opening a bar, opening a restaurant, opening a brewery, right? I started doing things that started to produce results because I started to have some drive and purpose behind it. That led me to, when Hurricane Sandy happened and decimated the East Coast, I went out and helped my dad's family business and just grew that tremendously. Then I started to move into real estate, started to do a lot on the flipping, and then really didn't like the pattern of that. So we moved into large apartment communities. So we started buying apartment communities really in the Southeast. And so we ended up buying about $300 million of real estate today. And it started to give me a purpose that started to drive me forward just with the part of just being realistic with where I was, right? Just really honing into it and being self-aware of just what I was doing and then owning it, right? Okay, this is where I am. I can't blame anybody
Mm-hmm,
else anymore.
mm-hmm.
And when I started being accountable and started to stop pointing outwards and saying, okay, I can't control what shows up. I can control how I react, right? And
Yeah.
I can control what I
Yeah.
give. And so for so many
Yeah.
times I was reacting poorly and I wasn't giving my all and I wasn't getting anything. So I started doing that. Things started to improve, right? And so now we've been able to do a tremendous amount, own a number of businesses. My wife and our 3 kids, we live here in Tennessee, and it's been a lot of fun compared to just a lot of angst, right? But it doesn't come without challenges. We still have our challenges today, but at least they're challenges that I want to have and not challenges that I'm forced to have.
Yes, driven by your purpose, driven by your mission to find something to do that's going to be fulfilling to you, and not
Correct.
working dead end careers and stuff. Yeah, I think it's
Correct.
great. I have a similar story. I really identify with the accident, right? Because I had an
Yeah.
accident also, and that accident, like, it's almost like really I wanted to change my life and I wanted to do things different, but I was raising kids and a wife, and I didn't have the time to devote to that. I kept chasing the living week to week. And then the accident happened, and it was like God did for me what I couldn't do for myself and slowed my
Yeah.
ass down so that I
Yeah.
had to take a look at things and say, hey, man, what are you really doing? What is it you really want to do? Don't you feel that your life is more than just living week to week? So I really
Mhm.
identify with that, those little pivotal moments that happen to us that send us in another direction. So what was the business that your dad did that you helped with
So
during Hurricane Sandy?
yeah, he had a business and he just recently retired where he lifted and moved homes. And so he had done something where
Oh.
it was a very unique heavy construction business where he would actually take a home off his foundation and lift it up in the air, a lot for flooding reasons, but he would also, move it down the road. He would help on foundation corrections, a lot of that. So it was, and he didn't market, so it was basically all word of mouth. Not sure where that came from, but he wouldn't really pull in any of the leads. So he would do like 8 to 10 jobs a year. And it was always a rough
Mm,
business, a tough business, long hours,
mm.
hard work, right? So when this hurricane happened, it ended up going from a couple calls a month to like 1,000 calls a day overnight. It was crazy.
Wow.
So my little brother was working for me. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, Peely, was working with me in New York City. We picked up and went out to help Dad. But the goal with that was like, listen, like this business, you've worked so hard in this business. You've done a great
Hmm.
job for what it is, but you've been working so hard, getting hard results, doing the hard work. We have to find a way to do this business in another light to be able to grow into a new opportunity. But it
Mm.
took hard work. And because of the we'll say intricate nature of the business, right? You're lifting someone's usually biggest possession in their house, right? There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of
Yeah.
downside, everything from insurance costs, just that a mistake could be not only dire to the house, but could injure people, right? So we could
Yeah.
never really step out of it. So the scalability was always difficult for that business. And the materials you would need on each part was very expensive. So we did a great job getting it up to a certain point where we could grow it to just get the revenue up for many means, and then eventually transitioned out of the business.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I could see that. Sometimes we end up in these situations that it's just such an uphill battle, and
Yeah.
to pivot into something that's a little bit easier to work for, and not so uphill battle all the time with so much risk. That makes a lot of sense to me. So you guys pivoted again, and so pivots, that's very important, right?
Yeah, you pivot until you find what's really your calling. Because most of the time, we'll stay exactly where we don't want to be, and we'll say, but it's less risky than trying something else. So, like, let's say someone's going to come spend $5,000, to join a group or to be in a mastermind or go to an event, right? Well, they are unhappy with where they are, but they don't want to lose that $5,000 because they think that $5,000 it's worse to lose it and stay exactly where they don't want to be than to have the opportunity to grow from it, right? And so it's the same
Mm,
thing with many, is that typically there's 3 results or 4, right? If you take no action, you're going to get no results. But if you take action, you're going to have 3 things happen. First is that you'll take action and you will be in completely the wrong direction. And so at
mm,
least you can eliminate a direction and then turn around and try another direction. Or you take
yes.
direction, right? You take action, right? And you go on a route and you say, oh, okay, this is kind of in the right way, but it's not right. Then you pivot, right, to a better way. Or you start out and you're on the right track and you start to really build momentum and magnify your results. And so
Hmm.
those steps there, you have to take action. That's what it really comes down to. If you take no action, you
Yeah.
will get no results. And for many years, I was taking no action and I wasn't happy with where I was. I was just repeating bad habits and getting bad results. But the second I started to take intentional execution of just action, well, results started to show up. And then I'd say, okay, this is good, but how can we be better, right? Okay, this is better, but how can I be greater, right? And okay, this is greater. How can I really do well? Okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, failure is part of success, right? You have to try some things, you have to get that
Yeah,
feedback back from that. You've got to look at it and you have to then, maybe change the way you do it, or, switch something. But definitely that feedback loop of risking and, going out there and trying something new and then learning from it. That's the key for everybody, right? I mean, they say
yeah,
failure is part of success, right? An airplane is off course more than it's on course, right?
yeah. Well, and it's
Absolutely.
that, what
So,
happens with fear? If I throw something on there, is that
yeah, yeah.
fear is something that we all go back to that mentality of that, like we're just trying to survive each day. Like there's a saber-tooth tiger after us, right? And so when we think about fear, what happens is that if I go out, like think about this, like if I go out and try and start a business today, oh well, I might go bankrupt, and I go bankrupt, I'll lose the house, and then my wife will leave me, and they'll come take my dog, right? That's like what our mind goes to just with me just thinking
Hmm.
about starting a business, right?
Hmm.
But if that's the
Hmm.
1% of 1% of 1% downside, well, then you have to give credence that you might have the 1%, 1%, 1% upside, right? You go start this business, that
Hmm.
business becomes so great that it not only helps to help your family go out there, you now have 1,000 employees, and those 1,000 employees now have jumped into a new world that they're empowered for. And you go and you set the stage that you help so many other people with this
Hmm.
business, right? And it transforms into this massive thing, right? But we'll never think like that, because the only thing our mind thinks is that someone's going to come take my dog because I'm going to go bankrupt. And so when we
Yeah.
think like that, that's how our mind always goes. It's very hard for us to break the curve. But what usually happens in the middle is that you start that business, right? And what is it that it's something like 20% of businesses, or is it even less? There's like 10% of businesses, within the first 5 years fail, right? But the
Hmm.
people who
Hmm.
start the second businesses, 90% of them succeed. But everybody
Mm.
thinks about the failure of the first business and never wants to start the second business. But it's the
Yes, yes,
second time you
yes.
do something that you get all the success.
Yeah, this is why really, all of your information about resilience and dealing with challenges are so vital, right? Because we need to be
Yeah,
able to have the mental toughness to keep pushing through and not fold, right? You want to talk a
all
little
day
bit
long.
about how you developed your resilience?
Yeah, I really took back my morning, and I started doing things that really put myself in uncomfortable positions. I started running a ton, and so I started doing runs. 2008, 2009, started running some marathons. I was never a runner. I played some sports, right, but had no friends that wanted to play
Mm-hmm.
sports anymore. They were too busy with what they were doing, so I started to run, right, and it became a part where I
Mm.
started growing into more and more running. Well, 2017 or 18, I came upon ultra marathons where you would run. It's basically anything that's past a marathon length, but I would run, 30, 50 or 100-mile races. And I didn't know how to prepare for that. But what I did know is that the only thing I could control is how I showed up. So to prepare for it, I started running 6 miles a day, each and every day. And so each and every day, whether wasn't feeling well, it was 2 degrees out, it was 100 degrees out, my foot hurt, my ear hurt, you name it. I would just do it every day, no matter what. And that's
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship, right? You have to show up each and every day, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
things are,
Mm-hmm.
without the pattern of
Mm-hmm.
what the goal is, like, because you've never accomplished a goal, so you don't know how you're going to feel when you get there, right? But you also don't know how to exactly do it. You can see how other people have done it, but you have to do you.
Mm-hmm.
And so me, it was showing up each and every day and doing that. And so when I got to the 100-mile race, like most of us, like our goals, like if you think of this lofty goal, you might get scared of even starting because you're thinking about the goal. Like, I want to make $10 million. Well, you've never made more than $100,000. So you're like, I'll never do it because that's like the starting point. Well, if I was to start that race and at mile one, I was like, I only have 99.9 miles to go, right? I'd be like, oh, I don't know. I'm never going to be able to do this. But what I did is I said, okay, I've run 6 miles for dozens and dozens and dozens of days. So let me just go out there and run 6 miles. And so I ran to the first drink station, another 6 miles to the second drink station, another 6 miles to the third drink station. Then maybe it gets tough. And maybe I run another 5 miles. And then I run another 500 feet. Let me just run to the bridge. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
run,
Mm-hmm.
over to the tunnel. Let me just run to that next drink station. Right. And every time I was like, I don't know if I can go forward. Well, okay, let's just see if you can get to that next bridge. And then if you want to stop, then we'll have a conversation with myself, right? To get to that next one. And then I get to the next string station and I get to the next one. And lo and behold, I get to 100 miles and cross the finish line based on a series of 6 mile runs. And when we do
Wow.
that, it becomes the journey I spend myself on instead of the goal that I lose focus of.
Yes, yes, yes. Inch by inch, right? Like a football game,
Inch by
right?
inch, all the
They're
time.
not trying to they're not trying to just shoot the touchdown from the 20-yard line. They're going to go to get the
Correct.
next down, the next first down, the next first down. Yeah, that's good. Ziegler liked to say a block and a mailbox, and then tomorrow a block and two mailboxes, and then a block and three mailboxes.
Yeah, that's great. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
great. I actually said that to my aunt, and she's like, I gotta get in shape. I'm gonna go run. I was like, when's the last time you run? She's like, I don't know, like 30 years. I was like, okay, so let's set something accomplishable, and we started doing the mailbox thing, right? And now
Yeah,
just
yeah.
go three mailboxes today and just run. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but what happens is like we try to break out of the gate, and the first day we go and like push ourselves so hard that we're so sore, and then the next day we won't get up and do anything again. But if you're doing this
Mm,
to live your life and you're not doing this for a moment of time, right? You're doing this to live a healthy life, right? So what can be
mm-hmm,
accomplished each
mm-hmm,
day? So now
mm-hmm.
she goes a couple more mailboxes the next day, another mailbox the next day, and she would just repeat this pattern. And all of a sudden it started being a couple miles, right? That she was walking, just
Yeah,
getting speed walking,
yeah,
but really starting to get her health in because she started to take action of something that she could accomplish within a reasonable point. Instead of saying, today I'm
yeah,
going to run 3 miles. Well, I haven't run in 30 years. I can't do it. Maybe I'll wait for tomorrow. I don't feel good. Let me just wait for the next day. It was like, okay, we get out there, we
yeah.
do stuff. Then we build our confidence, we build our momentum, and all of a sudden now we start to optimize the results.
Yes, yes, yes. I find, in running sales teams, oftentimes, sales guys come in, they've got big dreams and they've got big hopes and make big goals for themselves. And, typically in sales teams, I don't know, you probably experienced this where you say, okay, what's your call out this month? How many deals you're going to close? How many units you're going to move, whatever. And, they want to say, well, I'm going to do 25. And then,
Yeah,
I'd pull them to the side and I say, well, last month you did 10. So maybe you should try to just do 14 or 15. Like,
yeah,
cause 25 is like, that's like triple almost what you're doing now. Maybe you just need to set something a little bit more realistic so you can have more confidence. You can build that momentum, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's about the practice of pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit more, pushing a little bit more to then eventually get to those bigger numbers that you want, whether that be running 100 miles or,
yeah.
making $100,000 a month, whatever it is. It's a little bit at a time. Sure.
It's
Yeah.
the actions,
So,
right? And so because they'll say, "Oh,
yeah.
I just want to get more," but there's like if they make 50 calls a day, right? But and that's what they do, and that's what they're planning on doing next month. That somehow they're magically thinking that they're going to go from 10 to 25 closes, right? But you have to say, like, if you're just making the same amount of calls, like, are you doing the same call every time? You're just hoping more
All
people are going to
right.
say yes. Or
Right.
is there something that's going to change in your in your presentation? Is there something you're going to do differently on that part? Because then that maybe can make a
Yes.
difference. But if you're going to do the same thing,
Yes.
what makes you think that you're going to have this many more people that are going to go and say yes to you, compared to
Right.
either maybe that's the point is that every 100 calls you get you get one, right? So you get one. So now if you're going to get 10, you have to make 1,000 calls, but if you're going to get 25, you have to make 2,500 calls. Right. And so then maybe it's
Exactly.
volume. If this is
Exactly.
what the close rate is, maybe you have to do the volume. And so, okay, you have to change that.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to come in earlier, right? Or
Oh
stay
yeah.
later, or
Oh
call
yeah.
at different parts of the day, right? And so you think about that with your people in your team is that you have to empower them to understand how the results come to be. The results are not just magically showing up by hope. It's based on the effort they're putting in the front end, the right effort.
Correct. And, a lot of times, as busy as people seem, it's often, you could find that they're not focusing their attention to income producing activities, right? You're going to be at work
Oh yeah.
for 8 hours or 10 hours, whatever it is. And instead of focusing for 8 or 10 hours on income producing activities, like making all those phone calls and setting appointments or whatever, they take time to have a long lunch, bullshit with their coworker and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
where they could easily make an extra couple of hours of calls a day, and increase what they're doing. Sure, absolutely. And you mentioned something earlier actually about being honest with yourself, right? You didn't use those words, but that's what you're talking about, looking at yourself and saying, let me
Yeah.
get honest with myself right now. What am I doing, and how can I do better? What areas can I work on to do more and be more, to find that life of fulfillment that I want to succeed in the way that I want to succeed at the highest levels. So that's definitely an important part of it, for sure.
It's
But
hard. That's the
I'm
hardest thing. That's definitely the
yeah.
hardest thing is to being honest with yourself, because it takes you realizing that you're not truly showing up and being accountable, right? Because it's very easy. I could be like,
Hmm.
oh, Eddie didn't ask me great questions. So on that front, but in that part, but like you're out here crushing it, right? But in that front, like if I'm not out here like giving my best, like it's because I'm not giving my best, right? I'm not showing up, right?
Yes.
Or that salesperson's not
Yes.
performing out there. So you know what? It's him. Well, maybe I haven't given him proper training, right? Maybe I haven't given the right
Yes.
part. Maybe he's in the wrong position. I'm not being truthful with where he is, right? So I'm not, being
Hmm.
truthful with how I've shown up,
Hmm.
or I'm not showing up to my family because my wife's being cold to me. Well, am I showing up in a way that would deserve to be the great husband that she needs to be? Or my kids are not doing well in school. Oh, it must be the teacher, right? Oh, am I not empowering them at home to just understand how to study better, or like how to have those habits? So it's very easy to point at everybody else. But when you absolutely stop pointing at everybody else and you understand that you are the common denominator in all your problems,
Hmm.
things start to become really real, because you realize that you are in the middle of all your problems, not outside
Hmm.
of them, right? Not outside of them, right? Like not all around them and everybody else is the middle. You are the middle of your problems. And you
Absolutely.
have, in some part, manifested and brought to where your problems are. So you can either take back and start to unravel things and look at it in a more truthful fashion to say, I'm not showing up, right? I'm not showing up to be a great, I'm not present. Like, say I was here right now on this podcast, and then I'm here, but in the same part, I'm like on work, I'm texting on the phone, I'm doing all these other things while I'm here with you. I'm not truly committing to you, right? But that was the commitment I made. Or, if I'm there in a meeting with my team and I'm not there truly in the meeting because I'm thinking about, how I was rushed with my kids today or yelled at my kids, right? Because I'm not there, then I'm not truly owning up to what I'm doing, and I'm not committed when I am there. Right. So you can be accountable to yourself, and you have to be committed when you are in the task. Like people
Hmm.
are coming, they're spending 8
Hmm.
hours at work, right? And they're doing 8 hours of supposedly sales, but in that front, like you said, they take these long lunches, right? And then they just look at the time gap that they've supposedly been somewhere, but they have only been present for 2 hours. So the time they're present is what the
Right.
results are. So you think about it, like
Exactly.
even if they went to 4 hours and they still messed around for 4 hours a day, they would get double results if they would just give 2 more hours, right? And
Yes.
and then they say,
Yes.
oh, all right, I get it. I get it.
And those little moves that you make to add a little bit more here and do a little bit more there, make one more phone call, send one more email, whatever is necessary, that starts to
Yeah.
build the confidence then, and you start to build that momentum. And momentum is so important in business. It's so important in sales to build that momentum. So many times, people start something and they're like, man, this is so slow. I'm like, that's right.
Mhm.
You have to keep at it, keep at it, keep at it, and build that pipeline of business for you and build that momentum. And then, you could cruise along. But, and always the other thing is also, like, a lot of times in sales and in business, it's like feast or famine, because you focus all your attention on getting new business. Then you get that
Yeah.
business and it occupies all your time doing it. And then you're like, oh, crap, I don't have nothing to do again. And so you got to go back and do it. So always finding a couple of hours every day, always to be getting new business, right? Always
Yeah.
keeping the wheels turning and keeping new business active all the time, so that we don't have that going on. So lots of good
It's
stuff.
really
Lots of
funny
good
because in
stuff.
the real estate world, for a couple of years, we were doing wholesaling, and there was always that common thing that you would learn not to do, was that you would send out so much marketing to really get the leads going in there. And when you got busy with the transactions, you would stop the marketing because there was too many leads, right? But in the second you get through those leads, and the marketing would stop, and then you'd have to restart the marketing. It was like starting an old truck. It would take a while to get it
Yeah.
going again. So you'd always
Yeah.
have these breaks. But when you just kept doing the marketing, being consistent in there, that's when you continue to actually have a business, instead of just being like this mom
Yes.
and pop operation that stop started all the time. Is very clunky.
Right. Right. So you've got a lot of experience in several different businesses that you've grown, and several different businesses that you run currently. So, I mean, I just want to kind of just jump ahead for a second. Like,
Sure.
how do you handle leading and managing all of these different businesses and all of these different teams?
I've learned to empower people for what they're doing. Because I was a poor leader for many years, and honestly, some of the people are surrounded. I saw the fault is that you would be task oriented, right? They would task you to dress, and I would did the same thing. I would task you to death. But when I'm tasking
Mm,
you to death, there was some common goal in there, right? Besides just keeping them busy, but they didn't know the goal. So they're just doing a bunch of
mm,
tasks. And every time they do a task, say they have two tasks, they get to the end of the task and say, well, what now? Right. So then they need more of me, because I wasn't empowering them to understand, like, listen, our goal is this. And to do this, we're going to have to build a machine that does these parts. And to do that, I'm going to need you to do step 3, 7, and 9 as part of this machine, so we can get up to reach that goal. And then they go out there and they can
mhm,
help me improving the system, right? And they can start taking ownership for what they're doing, and then having a result in mind of why they're doing the task. Because many times people that are on your team, employees or others, like they lose sight because they have no sight, right? They don't know what they're doing. So there's no timely fashion on what they're doing to go to get a result, because they don't quite understand the mission, right? So maybe they're doing
mm.
something that if you just showed them what the purpose was, like why we're doing this, they could come up with a way that's 7 times quicker and 3 times better than I could ever thought of, because now you've given them ownership for what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like part of my question, I think, begs the situation that I have been criticized many times because I'm involved in so many different things. And
Hmm.
common knowledge and common thinking is focus on one thing and do one thing. And I just have not found my life to be interesting at all, just doing one thing. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's
too
awesome.
it's I need action. I need to be involved. I got to have my hands busy in a bunch of different things. Do you relate to that at all, or?
I do, and what I've tried to work on is that I have to remember many times that not everybody's me, right? So I have to understand, like, the people I put on my team, like how they work, right? Because sometimes if I overload certain people, they just completely collapse, right? Because I give them 12 things, they don't know
Mm,
what has to be, what's priority, right? What needs to be done now, and I've not set them stage for them for success. Where I can handle it, you can throw 90 things just like yourself. You can take 90 things right now and be successful with them, right? I have to make sure that I'm empowering the people forward in the right lane. And that's where it took me,
mm,
and I still work on it now, is that, if I'm going to give people 10 things, okay, it might not be the best for them to understand how to do all this unless I set a peg order, like, here's the 10 things right now. These 3 are priority. I need them within the next 20 minutes. The other 7, the top 5 right now, I need by Friday. And the other 2 are lofty things that I want to work on over the course of the next 30 days. So at least they have a direction of why we're doing these 10 things and what's its priority, because then they get lost that they pick a little here, they do a little here, they're here, and nothing ever gets accomplished because I haven't set some stage of hierarchy to what their goals are they're trying to accomplish.
That's good stuff. That's some real nuggets right there, really, in both those comments you made about running the team and working with individuals, letting them understand really what they're working towards and how important and critical their part is to get to the end result, so that they have the ability to come up with maybe things and ideas that you didn't think of, to help further the purposes. So you started in real estate at some point, right? And now you have what is it, $300 million in apartment complexes that you guys manage?
We have,
Tell
yeah,
me a little
we've
bit. Tell me a little bit about that growth and how that all worked out and challenges that you may have faced.
Yeah, so it was really just understanding the model. We were buying single families and duplexes, and for us to say, okay, this is fine, but it wasn't scalable, and there was actually more downside risk. Like if you have a single family home and it's a rental, you have one tenant, so either you're 0% occupied or 100% occupied. That one tenant then has to cover all the expenses, all the mortgage, and like if the roof goes or an HVAC goes, like you may chew up like all the cash flow for many years, and then the whole thing, the bank's looking at you because if the tenant's not there, who's going to be paying this, right? So there's a lot of less, more risk that even the bank sees on this. But if you get a 100-unit building and you have one tenant that's not there, you have 10 tenants, 10 vacant units, you're still at least 90% occupied. So you have a lot more revenue that can come in to cover expenses and cover the mortgages. And the little levers you pull, right, based on how these are valued, you can do things. You can add on, maybe you add on tenant insurance, and with that, you're making a spread of $10 every person who signs up. Or for expenses, you lower your water bill by 20%. That could add hundreds of thousands of dollars of value to the building because now it's across not just one tenant, it's across 10 to 20 to 100 tenants. And that allows you to add massive value. At one point, my first building, my 94 unit that we purchased in 2017, we went and changed out all the toilets for low flush toilets, and we changed out all the faucets and shower heads for, add aerators, right? And going in there and fixing a bunch of leaks and just putting tenants to understand that to call for maintenance requests, we ended up cutting the water bill down by 30%. At the time of how it was valued, that added over $350,000 of value to the property just by changing out toilets. So those things, if I did that in a single family home, I wouldn't have been able to change one toilet and get $350,000 of value, right? But over a large building, it creates so much more inherent value to the building based on making these small adjustments to it. So understand that model. It allowed us to purchase the first one, a 94 unit, purchased that was in Louisville, Kentucky. Then we purchased about another 400 units there. And then we started to know the model and then start to repeat the model in other markets. And so now we've purchased in 7 other states, just a little bit over about 3,000 units that are mainly apartment complexes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So what was that process like? Any important things that you want to bring out about finding properties and start? I mean, like if I wanted to do that, I mean, I'm starting at 0, right? So you have to start with one property and move yourself up to that. But what's that like, and what kind of challenges do people face in that arena?
Shiny object syndrome. That's what it is. Is like just like anything, like in any space, like you can do like all different kinds of real estate. You can do, large apartment investing, small apartment investing, in-state investing, out-of-state investing, tax liens, flipping. You can do a million different models. You can't do them all. So what you need to do is really pick one model. So I picked large apartment investing. Then you have to pick one area. I picked Louisville, Kentucky. Then you have to pick one type of building, because in Louisville, Kentucky, I can invest in condos. I can invest in new construction. I can invest in historic buildings. I can invest in buildings that are 20 units. I can invest in buildings that are 200 units. But they all operate differently. They all function differently. They all have different kinds of teams, right? So to do all that, every time something would happen and I'd find an opportunity, it would all look like it was great because I wouldn't know how to assess it. So I got very specific in Louisville, Kentucky. I wanted to buy buildings that were valued between 3 and 7 million, that were about 75 units within the building to 150 units, that were built between 1970 and 2000, and that were in the south side of Louisville, because that's where a lot of the workforce housing was. What that did is it put blinders on and made me focus on a specific thing, and allowed me to understand how exactly they operate, and then put the team together that would be great for that. Because you might have a property manager who manages it. Well, there's different property managers for brand new buildings compared to older buildings, for different tenant bases. There's different property managers for single family rentals compared to, buildings that are over 200 units. So if I'm going to jump around all the time, I'm constantly going to need new information. But the more boring I can be with my focus and my commitment, the quicker I can be to actually get that transaction and find the property that works for me.
So I know you have a mastermind for multifamily purchases and a group that you run. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what that's about and what people can get out of it?
Sure. So it's called the number 7figure multifamily.com is where you can find us. And it's just that it's a mastermind that we help people, whether to go and jump into commercial real estate, that maybe they're breaking out from, being in the military to being, a doctor or a dentist, or to having some other business that they're going into to buy large apartments, or they've currently have brought some smaller real estate and that are looking to scale up. We help people go out there and accomplish that mission using really direct steps to identify the property, identify the market, build the team, learn how to put together the opportunity, make the offers, underwrite the deals, so they can go out there and accomplish their goals, right? So 7figure multifamily, we have about 75 businesses that are with us today that we help, that are all around the country in many different markets, to be able to go out there and meet the goals they want through these select steps.
That's awesome. And what kind of results do you get from that?
It's been fun to watch. I'll tell you that. I have a mother and daughter who joined, and they were always in jobs that just weren't their highest call, and they just purchased a 64 unit building. I've had people jump in, and year one they really put in the work. They weren't able to get to their first opportunity yet, and then year 2 or 3 now they've now purchased 500 units right across that part, and just in down the Southeast and North Carolina. I've had others who've jumped in that have brought their first 12 unit, others who just came in and brought a mobile home park, others who had small properties, 2 and 6 units, that have now gone out there and brought 100 unit buildings. So we've had all different people come in here and find success. But with large apartment investing, it takes, of course, work, which most does, and patience and persistence, and you can get massive results.
That's awesome. So let's segue into the Live 100 program.
That has been a ton of fun. And so, I started Live 100 podcast about, maybe 6 months ago. It's had, massive traction. It's been a ton of fun. And with that, through my growth, I started to do a lot of steps, some of which we've talked through here. So the Live 100 program was built on 3 foundational blocks: breaking your bad habits so you could build momentum to magnify the success that you deserve to have in life. And within there, there's 9 pillars, 3 within each block, that I've identified of things that I've gone through. So, elevating my self-awareness so I can own where I am, so I can position myself for greatness. Those are typically the 3 that you have to touch on as part of the break block. And then as you move into the build block, you start to intentionally execute. So you can be uncomfortably brave to the things that are going to come up, the challenges we come up with. So you can learn to be limitless, right? So you can really awaken your mind to what are the opportunities in front. And then when you do get to the stage of being able to magnify that success, you are really intentional to have masterful, meaningful habits and rituals, so you can truly accelerate your growth to have long-lasting accelerated rise. And that leads you through the path of Live 100.
So when you started that, you started at 0, right?
Always. Yeah.
Right. And so what was that like, building that up and getting people involved and seeing, the rewarding, obviously it's rewarding seeing people grow and change. What was that process like? What kind of challenges was that?
It was more me just truly looking at what I've done, because to me, it was like, I just did it. Right. And so these were things that I knowingly went through. And so I had to really break down of what I did to make the changes to get the success I had, and then truly go through them, right? So I had to really look at it and say, like, okay, other people are asking, like, how did you do this, right? And they're trying to jump to the part of just having accelerated growth without really building back to really be self-aware of where they are, right? So they can really own it, right? So I had to break down exactly what I was failing at before and what were the steps I changed in my life to break my bad habits, to build the momentum, right? To get the results I wanted. And when I did that, I slowly started to build a process. And then I was slowly to understand how that process went, what that process built into. And then really what the Live 100 message started to manifest from was me just truly looking at my past and the steps I've taken to grow into where I was.
Yes. And so that's a program, right?
Yeah, it's the
That's a
podcast and it's a
program.
program. It's a coaching program. Yeah, and I speak to the message a lot. It's one of the keynotes I give too.
So, and then you also found time to start an HVAC business and grow an HVAC business, right?
Yeah, well, you had said it earlier too, is that, we it actually it's twofold. One is that we have a lot of multifamily properties here, so it helps me in this area with it. So, but two, it's a great business, and I have two other partners on it. So one I own the office with, and the other is my brother, who's in New Jersey. And so my brother does a lot of the day-to-day. He's just killing it with it, just crushing it all day long, just with the right crew and the right team, just getting out there and growing it. We're working a lot on the marketing channels to really just put ourselves into the right position and being the right people there. So it's been a ton of fun. That too, we've been out 7-8 months now on that. We've really seen a good runway, and we're really excited about the path forward with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're so positive and you're so, hopeful about everything and just focused on the tasks that need to be done, the income producing opportunities, pushing the things along, building the team and leading the team. I wonder, do you ever get crushed? Do you ever get hit upside the head?
Always. Yeah. So I think every morning, right? I think, because you remember, you can finish every day. You have to wake up with that same mind that you have to change the identity of what your mind's thinking, right? Because we get back to that feast or famine thing, right? So each and every day you have to get past your mind, right? And that was many stages that I was never getting past my mind every day. I was waking up into, ho hum, Eeyore, like woe was me mentality, right? Now each and every day I wake up and it's great. I have, my beautiful wife, right? And she's my partner in all this. And for that, we both each day are good combos for each other. But in that same front, there's challenges in some mornings, right? And I wake up, with my own concerns, with my own parts, and I just have to set the stage for, okay, yeah, it's fine. You can own that. I get it. Is it warranted? Okay. If it isn't, then let's go. Just move away from it. If it is, okay. Instead of worrying about it, what is the things you can take back control of with it, so you can continue to make this day successful and not just look at it of worry. Because we worry about so much that, it's what is it? It's like I forget the quote, but is that we spend all our time worrying about things that actually never come true, right? And so we spend most of life just worrying about things that are just out there that never happen, right? And we manifest all these things that just never come to true.
Yeah. Yeah. Often that's what we have to do, right? We have to focus on what's controllable, not focus on things that are uncontrollable, because that's a waste of time and a waste of energy. Yeah, that's burnout. That's what burnout looks like, worrying about things that are beyond your control. You don't get burned out when you just focus on what you can do. What can I do today? What can I do today to make things a little bit better and a little bit easier, right? So Jason, talking about Live 100, I know that you have an offer for the listeners about the Live 100. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So if you go over to my website, jasonyarusi.com, YARUSI.com, there's a free assessment, it's a free Live 100 assessment. It's so you can truly identify where you stand today upon the 9 principles. So it's a quick 27 questions. You can dive right into it. And at the end of that, you'll get the results to show you where you stand today, so you can start to understand of how you can take that next step upon your Live 100 journey.
Yes, sir. And I'm going to take that assessment, and I'm going to get back to you with my results. We'll see where we're going, because I always want to, I am all about self-improvement. I am all about, moving the needle a little bit more every day, every day.
I love it. That's
great. I appreciate your time, Jason. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you. Yeah, this was fantastic.
For more information and monthly topics of interest, please go to transformyourfuture.com and join our newsletter.